Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first meeting in June of this Rotary year. A little good news. This is my last meeting as your club president. Yeah, I figured that would get a great round. That's exactly what I expected. In fact, Lisa, I thought you would start it. Yeah. So again, welcome everybody. I will be in Calgary at the Rotary International Convention when we have our next meeting. So Christine will be subbing in for me, and then we'll do the official gavel passing to Christine at our first meeting in July. A couple of announcements. Let's start with cart, since I see Jim sitting right there. The buckets are on the table. Please pass your buckets around the table. Get them started now. For those of you who are like me and don't carry cash, there is a QR code on the side of the bucket. Oh, that'll make a great picture, Amy. That's good. Very good. A couple of other announcements through the rest of the meetings in June and July. Please bring school supplies, and there's more in the newsletter, but bring school supplies for Alexander Elementary School. Something we do every year, a little school supply drive, and they're very appreciative of that. Next Tuesday night, we have our evening Discover Rotary. We already have 3 people signed up, so bring a friend and hang out at Craig Golden Davis downtown. I believe it's at 5:30 next Tuesday evening. Next Thursday, coffee and conversation at Grateful Brew. It was listed, if you saw it, it was listed at a different coffee location, and that has since gone out of business, so we decided to move it. Our next luncheon, we have June 24th. Again, I won't be here, but we have Bethany Green, who's coming to talk to us. She's from the Federal Reserve, so that'll be very, very interesting. And then last but not least, we have our after-hours meeting on the 26th. It's always the fourth Thursday at Local Q. It's over by the mall. Always a great time. I see a few of our after-hours club members around the room that have joined us today. Okay, there's 2 Jeremys over there. I was talking about our after-hours Jeremy. So anyhow, if you bow your heads, please. As we gather today, may we be guided by wisdom, grounded in service, and united in purpose. Let our time together strengthen our fellowship and renew our commitment to doing good. Let it be so. If you'll stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, officially, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Josh Fowler, president of Davis and Floyd Engineering. It's my pleasure to introduce today's guest. So I'll ask each guest to stand to be recognized and that everybody else holds their applause to the end. First up is Shelby Gneissig. When you join Rotary, you'll be known as Shelby G. Okay. Right. Tom Hendricks, guest of Roger Heitzig. Jeannie Getchell, guest of the club. Did I get that right? Okay, great. Forrest Briggs, guest of Christina Mean. And last but not least, we'll get a special round of applause for you, Christine. Yeah. And then finally, Rebecca Hamza. Okay. Guest of Mark Leonard. So welcome our guest, everyone.
I'm back again to introduce our new member videos. We have 2 of them today. The first one is Jeremy. And again, the reminder, they pick their own walk-up songs that go in the videos. That's not my editorial license. So without further ado, we'll go ahead with that.
All right. Well, I'm Jeremy Ackles. I am a father, husband, a loving friend, an inspiring community leader, and a change maker here in Greenville. Professionally, I work in the venue management hospitality industry. I've been doing so for about 8 years. It's a rewarding career, and I really enjoy it. For fun, I like to travel. I like to play tennis. I like to cycle, watch movies, and I love, technology. Just so many different intriguing new things to explore. So that's a little bit about me. Well, I joined the Rotary Club of Greenville because I just got pulled in. I don't even feel like I had a choice. I mean, when I heard about the great things that the Rotary Club of Greenville is doing, and my friends and colleagues that are involved, it was a no-brainer. I understand the mission of Rotary International. I've been a Rotarian since 2016, starting in Columbus, Georgia, for the Rotary Club of Greater Columbus. And so just understanding the mission, being involved, was an easy transition here in Greenville. And so I just want to thank my friends and colleagues for introducing me to the Rotary Club of Greenville and sponsoring me and just reeling me into the different opportunities to impact the community. And so that's how it all happened. Well, first service in the club, done so many good, cool things. Um, to be honest, I mean, I'd have to go and and pinpoint exactly what the first one was, but the one that I remember the most that comes to mind right now is building those book nooks, you know, with a child's haven. That was a really cool opportunity to really get involved, get my hands dirty, and do something that's tangible, and that is going to have a lasting impact. So I want to say a Child's Haven and the Book Nook building project, and so much went into that. The team did a really good job planning and executing that project, and now at a Child's Haven, there's a beautiful place for those children to enjoy books, which is one of the initiatives that the Rotary Club of Greenville has uh, really, really dug into and made an impact. And I'm happy to be a part of that.
I'm married. I have two grown daughters. We've lived in the Greenville area about 17 years now. Um, I'm a mechanical engineer by degree. Currently working remotely as a project manager for a software company, but would love to find something local. I'm still looking. Um, I'm really looking forward to getting to know others in the club and participating in service activities. I joined Rotary Club of Greenville because I thought it was a good time in my life to get back involved. I was a member of what was the Greenville Evening Rotary Club years ago, and I actually released the ducks in the river when I was there. So, yeah, my kids are, grown now. I hope to stop work in a few years. So I thought it was a great time to get back involved with the Rotary Club. My first area of service with the club was participating in Career Day. Um, it really resonates with me, helping kids trying to understand where to go in life. If I didn't have anyone telling me that when I was their age, I don't know what I would have done. So when I saw that, I jumped at the chance to help out. I'm also volunteering for the holiday fair, planning that this year, and look forward to doing that.
All you Red Badgers, remember, you can't get a blue one until you do your new member video. It's painless. The hardest part is picking out your song, and then it takes literally 10 minutes on a Zoom call And with that, I think Rusty's next. If I have the right agenda now.
All right, everybody. If you've been reading your emails and watching the newsletter, you know that on Saturday, June the 28th, the Rotary Club of Greenville will be at the Greenville Triumph Stadium rocking it. So we got a quick little video we're going to show you here, and then I'll tell you some more details.
Hey, Rotary Club of Greenville. It's Brandon and Evan with the Triumph.
We're excited to invite you guys to our game on June 28th. Buy your tickets now.
Woohoo! Well, you know, those guys are so exciting. So let me just tell you this. So there's a QR code that you can find out. You can get your tickets. But wait, there's more. So if you buy a ticket, you too can be the proud owner of one of these beautiful, brand new, limited edition Greenville Triumph, Greenville Liberty scarves. So by buying a ticket, your name goes in the list and you get perhaps to be the proud owner of them. Now, one quick question before I start. Does anybody know why we wear these scarves at soccer matches? So if you win this, you also get this commemorative note, which tells you how and why this happens. Okay. So if you don't win it, if you don't come to the game, you won't know why. So that is your hook. I'm not going to tell you today. Anyhow, thanks so much. We'll see y'all at the Greenville Triumph.
See if you can hear me this time. I usually back off. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker today, Patrick Warren. Patrick's a professor at Clemson University in the John E. Walker Department of Economics, and he's the co-director of the Media Forensic Hub. He has an undergraduate degree from the University of South Carolina and a PhD from MIT. Patrick is also a fellow Rotarian and past president of the Clemson Sunrise Rotary Club. He lives in Clemson with his wife, Pam, and teenage children, Maggie and Charlie. Please welcome Patrick.
All right, can y'all hear me all right? Good. All right, so thanks for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I want to tell you a little bit about some research that we've been doing at Clemson related to online deception. As was mentioned, I co-direct a center at Clemson called the Media Forensics Hub. We study people lying on the internet. And I'm here to tell you it's like 60% of what people do on the internet. Specifically, I was asked today to talk about AI. And, you know, we use a bunch of AI in our work, and I'm happy to chat about how we do that. But I thought it might be interesting to tie together the topic of AI with our particular research interest at the Hub. So today I'm going to tell you how to use AI to run a troll farm. So if you want to really turbocharge your troll farms, here's your chance. So when I think about the way influence actors or deceptive online actors act, I think it's worth breaking up sort of two stages of their behaviors. The first is strategy. So in broad strokes, what are these guys trying to accomplish? And then we can think about the tactics that they employ to try to accomplish that end. And so broadly speaking, the way I think about the way these actors act is that they're trying to change what's prominent in online discussions. So within some topics, say the topic of a political election or the topic of cryptocurrency or within the topic of sports, there's just some elements of that topic that these actors are in a motivated and coordinated way trying to make more or less prominent than that element would be in the absence of their intervention. So they want some crypto coin to be trending so they can sell it for a lot of money, or they want some narrative in the political process to be prominent because that's good for the candidate that they support, or they want some rumor about the president of Ukraine, we'll see an example like this, to be more prominent than it would otherwise be because that's going to undermine support for that man. Just broadly speaking, that's what they're trying to do. Bring things up or down in the political discourse. I'm not going to talk so much about strategy today because what I want to talk about is the old way and the new way of employing various tactics toward that strategic end. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the old way, no AI, the new way with AI. But since this is an AI conversation, we're going to make all our pictures today with AI. So I used ChatGPT to make this picture of the new way and the old way. And with this picture, I think I'll illustrate in broad strokes what the new way brings to bear in this context. So one thing it brings to bear is that there's not just one new way. It's easy to make lots and lots and lots and lots of new ways. And they're all a little bit different from one another. Okay? So that's one thing that I can do. I can scale things very cheaply using AI. Another thing that I can do is that I can brand things very easily using AI. So here I asked ChatGPT, okay, but put a Rotary emblem on that. Now, it's not going to do it perfectly. We're not supposed to use the wheel anymore. If I recall, ChatGPT doesn't know we're not supposed to use the wheel anymore. But it doesn't matter. They make enough of these that they hope that they're like buying lottery tickets. They hope that one or two of these is going to fool one or two people. Okay? So the difference in the old way and the new way, you should think about this as quantity, novelty. By novelty, I mean not all of these signs look alike. Okay, I can make thousands and thousands of them that are all a little bit novel, a little bit different from one another, and I can differentiate them. So I can put Rotary on the signs today, and if this afternoon I wanted to give a talk to the Kiwanis Club, I can put Kiwanis, and it's easy, it's fast, and I can make it very, very targeted toward whoever I want to target at. So broadly speaking, this is what AI brings to bear in my context. So let's talk about tactic A. So tactic A, by far the most common tactic that are used by these coordinated and authentic influence actors is what I call affinity group integration for amplification. What does that mean? They act like they're just like you or they're your friend in order to get in your networks. Then they insert or amplify things within those networks. Okay? So they try to make friends with you first. So the old way to do that was that they would craft carefully designed accounts to appeal to some subgroup they were trying to target. So here were two political accounts that were created back in they were really created in 2015. They became prominent in 2016, and they were trying to basically integrate themselves on the right in U.S. political conversations. So Tennessee GOP, this is not really the Tennessee GOP. This is an account that was crafted. The version of that I get, if you see these funny languages, by the time I tried to grab it, the English language version was gone, but I was able to find, I forget what language that, Turkish, I forget what language that is. American Gunslinger girl, very prominent. She had like 40,000 followers. Okay, so that's what they did. They would craft these sort of narrow accounts to try to appeal to specific folks. And they would do it on the right, and then they have to go and they have to do it again on the left. And then once they had crafted these accounts and integrated them into interest groups, they would then use them to send messages. So they would start by sending completely innocuous messages. Like, oh, everyone thinks this is great. Look what Warwick Dunn does. We love him. Fine. That's to grow followers. That's to get in the networks. That's to let people identify with them. And then they would insert the messages they're really interested in making more or less prominent. Okay? And what were those messages? So what I'm showing you now is a couple clouds of accounts on Twitter, left-wing accounts, right-wing accounts. Here, blue dots are real people. Orange little hairballs are these fake accounts that this campaign created. And you'll see that they, as I suggested, they integrated themselves with the left and they integrated themselves with the right. But what this illustration shows you is that it wasn't just kind of in the middle. They integrated themselves with the right and then they started pulling to the right. So they would start off kind of in the middle here. This is what these things are showing you is where they went and where they ended up. So they would start kind of in the middle, and then these fake accounts would get more and more right-wing. So the message that they shared would be more and more extreme, more and more ideologically divergent from sort of the middle of the conversation. And they did the same thing on the left. So that was the strategy in 2016. If you ever heard about sort of the polarization strategy, that's what they're talking about. Okay. So that was 2016. So now let's talk about the new way. I don't know if you can read this. This says, I am a 21 to 28-year-old female lifestyle influencer who loves politics and crypto. Okay. This is a report that some students and I worked on last spring in the Media Forensics Hub. We run a creative inquiry, which is like an undergraduate research program at Clemson. And this is a report that we wrote about some AI accounts that were pretending narrow of a thing. So now it's not like I'm a generic right winger. It is I'm a 21 to 28-year-old female lifestyle, blah, 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 okay? Extremely narrow. This is also AI. Of course, this is also AI generated. If you can look real close, she's got too many fingers. She's got one extra finger. Okay. But again, doesn't matter. They produce many, many of these. One of them gets caught, no big deal. Okay. What I'm showing you now is 3 different tweets from 3 different of these accounts. You can see their names were Catherine Harrell, Eliza Elegance, Think Space Art Project. Okay. You notice they all have blue checks because that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it just means that someone paid $8. Okay. Which suggests that they were willing to pay $8 to get their message out. Okay. The same image, and I'm just going to read these to you because I think they're extremely illustrative. This says, thankful that Tampa was spared from total devastation. God's grace kept us safe, but there's still a lot to rebuild. Hashtag hurricane update, hashtag thankful. This one says, the hurricane hit hard, but it could have been a disaster. Thank God for sparing Tampa from complete destruction. Hashtag faith, hashtag hurricane. The storm that could have wiped out Tampa, but God intervened. There's damage, but thankfully it wasn't more. Hashtag hurricane relief. Okay. So again, innocuous. Like these messages are not this is not them trying to skew conversation one way or the other. This is them trying to integrate themselves into a conversation. But you'll notice, although they share common themes, each of these messages is unique. You're never going to figure out just from like, oh, well, there's all these accounts saying the exact same words. No, they never say the same words anymore. Back in 2016, you'd get a bunch of accounts on the right wing that are part of this campaign. They basically shared the exact same words to one another. That made it pretty easy to catch. Okay, not anymore. They can also do a lot. I bet one person is running this campaign. I bet he has several campaigns like this. I'm just showing you output per day on this campaign. This is from August 2024 to basically the end of October 2024. We were expecting this to turn political, so we were watching it before the election back in 2024. As you can see, 7,000 posts per day on that day. Okay, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000, 3,000. They were sort of building the accounts up here. They were doing a lot of retweeting here. This is original output per day, so this is non-retweets. So these are unique messages, and I'll tell you, every one of these messages is unique. There's no repeats here. So this is, 100, 200, 3 to 600. Okay, lots and lots of output. Again, I think one person probably ran this campaign. What were they talking about? MAGA, Bitcoin, crypto, Trump, be best, Trump rally, MAGA, Bitcoin. And what they were connecting with were right-wing influencers. So they were trying to integrate themselves on the right, for sure. They were basically in the replies to a bunch of right-wing influencers, again, trying to build a little network here. But not just a generic right-wing message, but like very, very narrow. How do I know they were AI? You're probably asking. Well, she had an extra finger. Now, that's not how I knew, okay? The way I knew is that I'll talk about this a bit at the end, but we use AI for defense like they use AI for offense. And so AI, just like AI can produce all these messages that basically have the same idea but have different words, it can also pool together a bunch of messages that have the same ideas but not exactly the same words and say, these look a little too similar. So that's part of how we do it, okay? We sort of use AI for defense. These accounts engage rapidly with popular and trending content. Lots of people do that, though. They replied to similar accounts. So now I see a bunch of accounts that look a little too similar, all replying to the same sorts of accounts. Okay. Now, I teach at Clemson. My students don't write a lot of papers, and I teach sort of intermediate level economics, so I don't make them write term papers. But my colleagues will tell you a lot of AI is being used to write term papers. Okay, so how do you catch students who use AI to write term papers? Well, if I write a 5-page term paper and I'm trying to be really lazy, and so I have AI write my term paper for me, it's possible I don't proofread my term paper that AI wrote for me very effectively, and maybe something will slip. And if you produce this many messages, it's hard to review them very effectively. So every once in a while, something slips. So what sort of things slip? Well, here's another one from Emma Creates Gems. Generate a suitable, meaningful, and sensible comment as a woman who shares a real-based opinion, but which is in fact, and leave a comment that's intriguing yet all lowercase, inviting further conversation, but short. Okay, so these are called prompt leaks. The way you use GPT-style LLMs is that you will prompt it. You will say, hey, please do this for me, okay? And every once in a while, because these things are not, these are probabilistic. Like exactly how the LLM responds to you is going to be a little different. And so there's going to be low probabilities of weird activity, weird responses. And a common weird response is it repeating back the prompt to you. So if I said, hey, do this for me, it'll write back, hey, I did exactly this. Instead of doing it, it'll say it did it. And that's what happened here. The prompt leaked through. So we can learn a lot from this. We can learn it's definitely AI. The person who wrote it was sort of shaky on their English. I mean, this English is pretty good, but not perfect, okay? You can also sometimes learn exactly what AI was used, because sometimes it will say, so here's one. So Winnie Watson, an AI account, said, that's a sobering perspective. Climate change is definitely a reality we can't ignore, and it's true we need to start taking stronger action now. Preparing for the future means facing these challenges head on. And then someone said, are you an AI? Because that's, people don't talk like that really on Twitter very much. Are you an AI? And Winnie Watson responded, I am not here to reply to everyone. Dude AI. What people thinks about me, I don't care. None of my business. Thank you, Dude AI. So if you Google Dude AI is a chatbot that is pretty easy to roll up into these sorts of call response style campaigns. And so we think Dude AI was used to make this campaign. It was not ChatGPT. We think it was Dude AI. You'll see, this is my favorite thing that LLMs do. When I say LLM, I'm talking about the sort of AI that deals with language very well, ChatGPT, okay? My favorite thing that they do is this. They rebel. So you'll ask them to do something, and then they'll say, I can't do that. So here we go. I can't comment on politics. I'm an AI assistant. I'm neutral and don't influence politics. Let's discuss policies and ideas without endorsing candidates or making polarizing statements. I can give you facts from reliable sources on politics if you want. So it rebelled. This is a thing that we see commonly. Again, by commonly, I mean less than 1% of the time. But again, if you're producing thousands of messages, then I can use that to catch you. Good. That's strategy A. Strategy B. The old way. Cleveland today, Pittsburgh today. These are two accounts, again, that were created in 2015. I can't get into all the details. I'm happy to do a Q&A, but they were pretending to be local news outlets in 38 cities around the United States. They were, in fact, from Russia. What did they do? These accounts stole real news content from real news outlets. So Cleveland Online pulled stories from cleveland.com, which was like the actual newspaper in Cleveland. Drunken Akron man crashed at Talmadge Circle with nearly 4 times legal alcohol limit, police say. Drunken Akron man crashed at Talmadge Circle with nearly 4 times legal alcohol limit, police say. So they were creating fake versions of Cleveland news outlets that were actually just you'll notice 1.13 million from here, 218,000 from there. So a subset of the real news. So what were these guys up to? Well, if you look and see what subset of the real news they were interested in amplifying, they were interested in amplifying a subset of the news, specifically the news about unrest. What do we mean by unrest? We mean arousing a state of dissatisfaction, disturbance, or agitation in a group of people. And we sought here to code 4 kinds of unrest-related stories. Danger to a specific identity group, like, say, racial unrest or something like that, institutional failure or collapse, crime, and then like hurricanes, right? Act of God kind of things. And I'll show you that when they chose stories, they didn't choose randomly. In fact, they chose unrest stories 1.3 times as much as they chose a random story. They chose identity danger stories especially, institutional failure stories especially, crime stories especially. But they didn't really want to emphasize acts of God. That's not an institutional failure. That's not a policy failure. That's not problems with the way our system is working, which is what they were trying to push. This idea that like our system, the system in America is breaking down. Okay. So that's the old way. I could tell you lots of details about that, but I want to talk about the new way. So here's the new way. Here's DC Weekly. There's Zelensky. Olena Zelenska's extravagant New York City shopping spree raises questions of corruption and misuse of American aid. Okay, that story didn't happen. She did not go on a shopping spree, but you could find videos of the shopping spree online, and you could find stories about it in DC Weekly. That's what DC Weekly looked like more generally. Okay, there's DC Weekly. Okay, some stories. But where did DC Weekly get their stories? Well, that changed over time. So early in its life, it was just sort of nothing. And then starting in sort of 2021, they were copy pasting stories from RT, which is a Russian news outlet, and Gateway Pundit, which is a right-wing U.S. American news outlet, but and opinion. And they were doing the same thing that the old campaigns, the old accounts were doing. They were just copy pasting, maybe replacing Gateway Pundit with DC Weekly, maybe replacing RT with DC Weekly, just simple copy paste, no LLM stuff at all, no AI stuff at all. So that's throughout this whole period, they did that. But then, starting in late summer 2023, a big change in behavior. They started using AI to not copy paste Fox News, but rewrite Fox News. So take this story from Fox News, rewrite it, and put it as DC Weekly. And you won't be able to tell that it's from Fox News because it's not word for word like the Fox News story at all. So they can hide where it's coming from much easier than you could hide where it was coming from here. But more importantly, what could they do? So again, you know all about prompt leaks now. So you know if I look through 1,000 of these stories, I'm going to find one where they give up the goods. So here's the one where Hamas rocket attacks escalate conflict with Israel, prompting national emergency. Okay, so that's one where they gave up the goods. So this last paragraph here it is. It's worth mentioning that the article is written with a cynical tone, criticizing the U.S. position supporting Ukraine in the war. Context highlights the polarized political landscape in the United States, with Republicans like Trump and DeSantis being portrayed as positive, while Democrats buying big corporations and big pharma are depicted as negative. This framing sets the tone for the article and influences the perspective from which the conflict is discussed. So they were taking things from Fox News, spinning it, and then putting it on DC Weekly. Okay? But not just on DC Weekly, on Boston Times, on Great British Geopolitics, on Miami Chronicle. But of course, I can also do it in other languages. In Info Independent, Clear Story News, for some reason, was also in French. This is just a short list. Actually, this campaign ended up, in the end, having about 50 different outlets in about 6 different languages using this targeted technology. Okay? So what? Well, I mean, AI is powerful. And it's powerful for this application, but it's also powerful for defensive applications. So this is I asked ChatGPT, I said, make me an image of someone using AI to attack and someone else using AI to defend. I don't know who's attacking and who's defending. I guess this guy's defending. That guy looks like he's attacking, but he's got the shield. It's got its problems, okay? It's got its problems. But this is the point I'm trying to make. So at the Media Forensics Hub, and of course at all the platforms, and actually it's getting so much more accessible that news outlets definitely use AI to do fact checking to help them in their processes. The platforms obviously all use AI to try to both have, improve their algorithms, but also to understand and detect these sorts of coordinated attacks. We at the Hub use AI left and right in order to try to basically do this. I can't go all the way back to the beginning. To do this exact same thing, that to basically invert the advantage of AI on offense for our defense. So we can undo a lot of those advantages by letting AI soak up a bunch of information and bring it into distilled elements that we can then put our eyes on efficiently and effectively. So let me stop there. That was a lot. I tried to get through it quickly. I'm happy to take questions. Yes, please. Yeah. So I think trust is more important than ever, right? Because you're not going to be able to evaluate a media item on its own very effectively. And so I think you need to build relationships with media outlets that you trust through long experience. And so what does that mean? That means, both on the left and on the right, there are media outlets that have, through the test of time shown them, they make mistakes. Of course they make mistakes, but through the test of time have shown themselves to be reliable when read appropriately in ways that, like, media just sort of pulled out of the hat. There's absolutely no way for you to tell if it's reliable today on its own. You really have to build these relationships. Yeah. So I'm not an engineer. My expert, I'm an economist and I do this weird media stuff. So I think it's overblown. I think concerns about that are overblown. And the reason I think concerns about that are overblown is because the beginning of an industry is the least efficient time of it. So as price, I mean, will AI drive up energy prices? I think it will, but it will then respond to those higher energy prices by becoming more efficient in its usage. And so I think that's one of the least concerning elements of AI. I think the way that AI transforms work and the bumps in the road that are going to happen due to that transformation are much more concerning than the environmental or energy impact. So at Clemson, we have a large cluster that includes many, many GPUs. And we do have NVIDIA GPUs, but we have other GPUs too. I don't think NVIDIA is really the only game in town. I think they have a big advantage, again, today, but I believe economies work pretty well to attack sort of technological advantages. And I just don't think that's going to stay that way for very long. I actually don't think it matters at all. I think that you should, I think the Google AI, the free version of ChatGPT are already, the free version of the Google one, the free version of the ChatGPT, the free version of the Microsoft one, they're already so good that you should just pick whichever one you like using the best. So one thing, that's one particular, I'm showing you one particular campaign from one particular actor. So in that campaign, which is the Russian Internet Research Agency campaign, and I'm only showing you what we call the left trolls and the right trolls, like those news feeds, they're not in there. In that campaign, actually, the accounts on the left were bigger and more active, for sure. They pursued an interesting strategy, and it's actually consistent with what I told you, which is like those accounts didn't actually release very many messages that were their own words. Mostly they grew their prominence and then used that increased prominence to amplify extremists that were real people. So they made those extremists more prominent in the political discussion than they would have been in the absence of the campaign. The accounts in the campaign themselves really had nothing to say. Yeah. So in this particular campaign had many goals, but I certainly think one of the main goals was polarization. I mean, this is always going to be an arms race, and so defense is always behind. The question is and I think the faster the frontier is moving. And AI is moving, the frontier is moving very fast now. The further defense is behind, probably. So once the frontier stops moving, I think defense has a good chance to catch up. But right now, I think offense has the advantage. I have no idea. Because growth in AI, I mean, in AI capabilities has been like this. Now it's not going to be nothing is this forever, right? And so it's going to go, but I don't know. I think U.S. domestic regulation of AI would be ceding the battle space to the rest of the world, and specifically China. I think it would be a huge mistake. I think this is not like nuclear where there's a few key things that if you can keep your fingers on, you can do something about that. That's not this world at all. If we're just basically giving up, if we put substantial grips on it, I mean, there are costs of that. I think there are a ton of risks of AI, but I think we're in for the risks regardless of whether we regulate or not. This is getting developed. Do we want to be a leader in that development or not? Right now we are. We still are. Yeah. So there are ways that you can, there are several different sort of versions of each of these LLMs. And in some of them, you can constrain it. You can say, listen, I'm going to give you 10 documents. Only give me answers from those 10 documents. So Google has a notebook AI that has that flavor to it. So that's a way you can you can also circumscribe it. Like in ChatGPT, you can make a separate chat and you can say, forget the past. I don't know how good it is at forgetting the past. So I think you have an opportunity to do that. But if you're just in the generic chat window, It's a risk. I think echo, like AI induced echo chamber is a risk, but of course that's a risk of talking to your friends too. Or Google. Google knows you. I mean, if you've been using Google for a while, it knows you. You can end up in a Google echo chamber too. Yeah. As like a regular user, I don't think so. I don't. I mean, I do because we use it at very high scale. I mean, again, for like if you're only interacting at the chat window level, you may be missing the latest, greatest version of ChatGPT, but the frontier is moving so fast that the like generic free version from today is better than the very greatest version from 9 months ago. So I would not have my, I don't think you should sign up for that. I'm sure. Yes. Yeah, I'm sure. So, I mean, that's Google's whole business model. I mean, they were doing that for Google too. So is OpenAI doing it? I mean, they have some, you can choose to opt in and opt out in various things. They say that with the paid version, you can opt out in ways that you can't with the free version. I think I'm suspicious of that. But they say that. I don't know. All of these entities are in the data business. And so I'd be shocked if they're not using all the data they can get their hands on. Yeah. So I think that we're navigating that space even now. So like with my students, so I'll tell you what I tell my students. I say, you can use AI for anything you want. But then I only test them on things in class. And so use it on your homework. Here's some smart ways to use it on your homework. Here's some ways that it can be sort of the tutor you can ask questions at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I'm not going to answer your email when you send it to me at 3 o'clock, or the TA is not there, right? That's, I think, a super effective way to use it. It's basically a tutor sitting right next to you that can be there. That's a super effective. I found that to be an extremely effective way to use it. I think the times where problems occur is when there's a disconnect. I think you're not using it. I'm acting as if you're not using it, but you are in fact using it. To me, that's not a new sort of, that's true about having your older brother do your homework for you, right? So like your older brother's there. It's fine if he tutors you, but he shouldn't do your homework before you turn it in. But that's not like the AI element there isn't new at all, right? I think the way I treat it is just like a very smart helper. And I think that's the way to think about it, is as a very smart helper. And in ethical situations where a very smart helper is a problem, it's a problem. And whether they're not a problem, it's not a problem. Yeah. So again, I'm going to go back to your very smart friend example. So your very smart friend might be wrong sometimes too. And you should inquire with respect to ChatGPT the same way you would with respect to your very smart friend. Well, how do you know that? And it will point you to things. Now, sometimes it'll imagine these things. And when you go and look, just like your friend has some memory of this thing that happened to him last year that never really happened to him, ChatGPT has those hallucinations as well. So if it's really important, I'm serious, it has substantial hallucinations. If it's really important to get the right answer, then you need to dig. But, if this is like something that's not so important and it doesn't really matter too much if it's wrong, you're not, depending on this for an important thing, it's very smart and it's usually right. And so I think you need to treat it just like that, just like your smart friend. Right. So I think ChatGPT is going to reform white collar labor in almost the exact same way that mechanization reformed blue collar labor around the world. So that means that it's going to make people who are good at it extremely productive, and people that are just like a substitute for something that ChatGPT can do are going to have to find something else to do. And so, I mean, we saw that with mechanization. Like people who are really good at working with machines suddenly we had some engineers here. I was sitting with some engineers here, suddenly became extremely valuable, much more valuable than they were before mechanization came along. Going to be winners and losers here. There are some things that it feels very difficult for AI to replace that involve, physical interactions. Robotization is a real thing. Still, people have tastes, I think, for being dealt with by a person. I think those tastes will persist for a long time. So I think those people are going to be the least likely to be affected. Yeah, you guys should just go out and be with your families because it's all going to be over in 12 years or whatever is what Rouse South says. Yeah, but okay, so it's basically, factories got mechanized because they were standardized. Like it's relatively easy to put a machine in a factory because it's going to do the exact same thing every time. The nice thing about AI is it can do lots and lots of things. So I think if you want to keep your eye on like whether AI is going to replace us with robot armies, you should keep your eye on Waymo and not on ChatGPT. Like let's start with self-driving cars. Those are in a relatively constrained, but still much freer environment than a factory is. I think we're going to be there. That's going to have to be solid before there's any chance of moving on to more flexible environments than that. So I think the future of our robot armies is more like we should be looking at Waymo more than ChatGPT. I mean, I don't use Google search anymore, hardly. If I want to try to figure out the way to do something or the right place to go look for a paper that I'm interested in, I use AI for that now. Before and not the Google search AI. For some reason, it's not very good. I go to GPT directly, but I don't feel like it establishes fact. That's what I was saying before. I think it gives me an ability to establish fact more efficiently. So if AI got so good that every time I checked 1,000 times, and every time I checked, it was right about the facts. I mean, as an empiricist, that's establishing a fact. It's not there yet. I'm not sure it can get there because it's dependent on inputs, which will always be disparate and confused. But can it get us there faster than search? I think it already can, and will even more so. So I don't think it can get us there, but I think it could actually get us closer. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Patrick. That was great. It was a very interesting topic. Really enjoyed that. As always, Patrick has autographed a book for us that we'll be donating to Alexander Elementary School. I think I saw Mike around. There he is right there. You'll get ready for my last time of banging the bell. Let's stand and do the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?